David Hosack was a young doctor in the days just after the American Revolution, and he ended up being the founder of the first botanical garden of the new American Republic. And he knew when he was a young man, he left his family for 2 years. He went to England and he went to study medicine because they had different practices then than what were allowed and acceptable in America in terms of practicing on cadavers and learning what was actually inside the body. But he also knew that there was a history of knowledge of botanical medicine and using plants to heal people. And he knew he needed to add that to his skill set. So he went to England and he studied in Scotland with a man named William Curtis. And in the book called American Eden by Victoria Johnson, there's a really fascinating recount of the first time he walked into William Curtis's garden. William Curtis became one of the most famous men of his time in terms of promoting botany and particularly learning plants by the new system that Linnaeus had formed for categorizing and classifying them. And so he walked into Curtis's garden and he looked at all these beds and rows before him. And he recognized a few that had names just in the bed to his right that had names that were triggered in his mind from his medical books that were plants that were used as medicine. But he looked out at the whole rest of the garden and realized he didn't know what any of them were. And so that's what started his studies. That's what started his interest in plants and botany to where he came back to New York and he founded the first botanical garden in America, which actually was in the site which is today Rockefeller Center. So it's amazing to think that there used to be a botanical garden under that site because it certainly doesn't look garden like anymore. But and it's amazing to think of what used to grow there and what maybe is lost that he didn't know. But he started to realize that a lot of the plants that he grew up with in Manhattan, because he was born in New York, he was born an American, those were medicinal. And so he came back with a renewed passion to study the plants, not just that would heal his patients from other parts of the world, but the ones that were actually growing out his back door. And so, but when he first went into Curtis's garden, he had that moment of, I don't know what so many of these are. I don't recognize these. I recognize a few names here, but I couldn't pick one out from the other. It was just a sea of confusion to him. And that might be how some of you feel. Some of you may walk into a garden or a garden center and you're having to read tags, but you really don't know what something is. You can't recognize them. But when you can learn to recognize plants by sight because you know the characteristics of the family they fall into, it's so much easier and it just helps you classify those plants. It helps you remember them because you have a place to put them in your brain. You know what the other one that is related to it looks like, and you group them together because you're grouping them and learning them as plant families. And so you might feel like Hasek did when he walked into this garden and he couldn't recognize, one thing from another. And so that's where studying plants by sight, either through my basic class or through the book Botany in an Hour or Botany in a Day by Thomas Elpel, which is what a lot of my classes are based on, is so useful because you can take uh, one plant and you can turn it into a whole group as soon as you know the characteristics that it's recognizable by, because all of a sudden you're not learning just how to recognize that one plant over there. You're learning all the ones that are related to it too. So check out my course and the basic course. You can see free downloads on my website, botanyanhour.com, and click on freebies. And you can also check out the book I'm referring to called American Eden by Victoria Johnson. The link will be in the comments below. And also, the best book for learning plant recognition is Botany in a Day by Thomas Elpel. Have a great day, everyone.